Julie Nguyen. Welcome to Pivot.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited that you're here. I have heard so much about your business, Crunchmoms, and we are going to dive into it along with many other things in this Pivot. And thank you so much for coming.
I'm super excited. I think when I got the invitation, I was like, yes, let's do it. And I'm really happy to be here. So thank you so much for thinking of us.
I know you have a lot going on with the Crunchmoms Summit coming up at the end of October, which I will definitely be at. So I appreciate you taking the time. And again, we can talk a little bit more about the summit as we go on. But yeah, welcome to Pivot. And this is our first time meeting. So I would like to understand sort of a little bit. Well, so why don't I explain, or you explain what Crunchmoms is for people that don't know, and sort of what has inspired you to start such a venture, although it's obviously not just started, but sort of how did this all begin?
Well, firstly, I know this is the first time we're meeting, but it feels like I know you, and it feels like we've hung out many times before, and already feels so natural. So thank you again for having us. A little bit about Crunchmoms. So for some of those that are listening that maybe don't know anything, Crunchmoms is a women's network that supports women at all stages of motherhood, career, business, and just life journey. I think there's just so much that we go through in life. And I think it's one of those things that we can learn from women of all stages. So we have women in our network that are, in their 40s and 50s, and I think the women in their 30s are learning from them. Yeah. And it's just a very inspiring group. It started off from my own personal journey. When I had my first son in 2019, I was a very career-oriented person. I was in our headquarter office of this company I was working for in Amsterdam, and I just devoted everything to work. And then I got pregnant, and
life flipped completely.
Honestly, I think everyone probably says it on your podcast that has become a mother, but I was just...
They have, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even me included.
But it's just okay, hello, no one told me about this when I became a mother. So my husband and I relocated back to this region for that family support when we had my first son.
Okay.
And I was on maternity leave, and then I ended up going back to work.
So when you say the family support, you mean to have...
Family around us.
Family around you, so they're here, your family.
Yes, so my in-laws are here, my husband's family are here.
Oh, wonderful, okay.
And we have lots of friends and family from when we were here in our 20s. So basically, I went back to work, and just dynamics were different. It wasn't the same support. I needed to take on even more responsibilities with my son. Yeah. And I found it all quite difficult. And I'm a bit of a sensitive one. I was just I wanted to be there for him, but I also wanted to keep on track with my career. Yeah. So then the more women I spoke to, I was just how did you do it? How did you do it? How are you managing your career?
Gathering data.
Yeah, data from my own friends. Yeah. And no one really had an answer. I had all kinds of answers from you can only stay at home if you really want to be there for your kids. And I was that's not fair. Or oh, you just have to do it. So I got a lot of support from my parents and my brother from abroad, and they were you just had to keep at it. Yeah. But I was surely I'm not the only one going through this. And so the more women I continued to speak to, the more I realized everyone had the same pain point. When I first became a mom, XYZ.
Oh, wow.
So then I decided, while I was working in this full-time job, I'm just going to keep chatting with women. And then over time, meeting with women over coffee led to growing into a group of women meeting and bonding over the same experiences.
So it started small.
Started super small.
Like a WhatsApp group or something like that.
I think it was Facebook group and inviting women for coffee. And it was COVID. So it was kind of hey, want to meet a stranger over coffee during COVID, but women still came. And what kind of led with I showed up and I was okay, is anyone going to come? One person came, then two people would come. And then over time, as restrictions for COVID kind of went down, at one point we had 30 women showing up to events. Wow. Then we started having hundreds of women signing up to the Facebook group. Then we moved it to a website platform, and now we have 5,000 plus women that are registered.
Wow. Would you consider them members?
I would say they're part of the community.
Okay.
I think becoming a member is someone that is ready to commit, pay, and get closed access to this Crunchmoms circle.
Okay.
And I think you can still benefit being part of the community, getting the emails, coming to events, but there's definitely a different kind of bond when women are supporting each other in the closed group.
Definitely.
From health to questions about their kids, to, hey, I need to close this deal, or can you put me in touch with this corporate organization? And it's really magical. Like, it's really beautiful to see how supportive the women are.
Yeah.
But it's not easy to do. I think rallying women together to come and speak about things, you have to set some foundations. And my partner and I, made it very clear, these are the values that we're going to stand for. Which is, I mean, we have values as a company, but I would just say, like, be authentic, being warm, making sure everyone feels welcome. Like, when people come to our events.
So no bitchiness, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that kind of person in general, and neither is my partner. So I think we naturally are
women have a tendency, unfortunately, and I'm not saying all women, but there's a tendency for sort of a little bit of a mean girls streak, or like clickiness even. And the fact that you're putting the foundation, like, that's not allowed. And we want warmth, and that I
mean, I definitely don't have like a sign that says like no bitchiness, but like I think like
that was just my interpretation.
Yeah, I know.
I really went with that one.
But it's true though, right? You can see if someone has a bit of a more negative attitude, or someone comes in with a bit more like they're a bit more critical, or maybe I think when they're in that environment and they start to see like majority of the people are not like that, I think they change.
I agree completely.
Yeah, so I think that takes a lot of energy to kind of maintain as well.
And cultivate.
Definitely. It takes a lot to cultivate. And I think maybe sometimes when people come for the first time and I'm like, hey, and I give a big hug, they're probably like, whoa. And then over time, they're like, wow, people are really nice in this group.
That rubs off.
Yeah, I think it does.
Rubs off, and then you start to pass that on. So that's great.
Yeah, but you shouldn't also underestimate, like, there's a lot of characters to meet and greet. When you run a women's network, 100%. And it's kind of...
And not everybody's going to get along also.
Yeah,
you can't force it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know stories of people that don't get along, but there are moments where like some people might get offended by things and whatnot. I mean, we haven't had too many situations. Yeah.
But this is normal life.
It is normal.
I think it would be a little abnormal if you went in and everyone was just like...
True. It's a bit kind of freaky, actually.
Freaky.
Yeah.
This is a little creepy.
But I think I'm one of those that always wants people to be happy and supportive. And I think what I've learned along this way is, I guess, I don't know if it's a pivot or not, but it's like, you can't make everyone happy. And as much as you give, and I'm a giver.
There's a difference between the giving and then the pleasing, because you can't also... please everybody.
True.
Sorry, cut you off.
No, but it's true. Yeah. I mean, I like that. I think you can't please everyone. And I think maybe in my lifetime, I was always the pleaser and giver. And then over time, I was like, I give what I can authentically give. But then also if people don't reciprocate, then it's one of those things that you have to learn. But it's grown into such a nice community and a really lovely women's network. And I think the beauty is when you meet someone that comes in maybe not sure with what they want to do with their career or lost. Yeah. I've seen women just become completely transformed with like themselves and with their careers within a short amount of time. And I think that's the most rewarding thing.
I can imagine. Yeah. So I initially was under the impression that Crunchmoms was a lot more about work and career. But when you are now saying it's actually more of a supportive network, it's just great. Because I didn't know that. I felt it was a lot more
It is. I would say it started off, and it still is very much helping women with career ambitions and with to be financially independent. Basically, we believe that if women want to be free, they need to be financially independent and making their own money.
1000%.
And that means making money, whether it's the traditional route of like having a corporate career, starting or growing your own business, which is not always easy to do, or it's like doing something that keeps you active and making money. And it starts off as that, but then also we go through so much in life. Yeah. So then like someone could be working so hard and then they burn out. So we're like, we're here for you. Someone could then have another kid and they're like, I'm really going through a tough time. We're here for you. So it's
finding solutions, I think, for people at different phases or women at different phases.
Exactly. Which is hard too, but when you bring a group that really gives, there's always someone that can give in a different area of life.
Do you believe that, you know, we as women kind of want it all, or women these days especially, so they want the, you know, the family and the home life to be wonderful, and then a really good job, even like a high earning job, you know, and then a social life, and then it's a lot, like it's a lot of different boxes to tick. And I love it. I love this sort of boss woman, go do it, because it is doable. You definitely can. But at what point is this sort of superwoman aspiration just either unhealthy or sort of unattainable?
It's such a good question. I mean, I don't want to sound cheesy, but I think it's a line that everyone says, like, can women have it all? Yeah. And I believe you can, but if it's all at the same time, then it will probably all come falling down.
Yeah, so the timing is
so I think key. You can have it all, but it's all done in different phases and not at the same time. So if you're like trying to juggle like 2 young kids at the moment and you have these dreams of starting a business, it is hard. Do something or just wait a few years. Yeah. You can get back on track. I've seen women that are like, oh, I haven't done anything with my career, And I'm like, well, look at this on the flip side. Like, you went through all of this right now in your life. If you had started a business, you wouldn't have been able to keep up with it, and 100%. You probably would have burnt out. So maybe next year is the right time to do it. So I think, I mean, if you're ambitious and you want, you can. But we've seen women that just end up doing it all at the same time. They do eventually burn out or something happens.
And what does that burnout look like from what you've seen?
I think I've seen women that have devoted like 20 plus years to a company, only to then something happen and then they leave, and for the first time they've realized their identity was that organization linked to everything to them.
I've seen a few people go through
and they're just like, my network was that, my career, how I introduced myself, and so now they're like, how do I introduce?
It's identity, as you said. It's I am sort of Yasmin working for X, and you are that, basically.
Exactly.
And when you remove that, I think you feel it can really put you in a bad place. Because
you feel like you lose your credibility of some sort. So I think that's why they say personal branding is something really important. So your brand and who you are basically doesn't have to be linked to the organization. You can be much more than that. And so I forgot what the original question was. Oh, can women have it all?
Can they have it all? And at what point is it unhealthy or just unattainable to have it all? But as you're saying, you're answering.
Yeah, and I think one of the exercises that we always have women do is something called like the wheel of life. And that wheel of life can be your friends, your social life, your family, your health, your wealth. It can be your physical environment, like your home. Are you in the right environment when you're working as well? There's probably a few more. And you're supposed to shade like where your focus areas are. And it's impossible to fill everything at the same time. Yeah. So you have to decide, this is the year I'm focused on career, or this is the year I'm focused on family, and I'm gonna have to put aside some of my social life.
Okay.
And so for me, what I realized was I should always focus on my health and prioritizing myself, and then I'll have that energy to give to my career, my kids, because I'm gonna have to do it anyway. I have no choice, to be honest. So I think, I think women should strive for something. Life is short. Yeah. You don't have to achieve everything in the next year or right now. You can think of your life in 3-5 years' time.
For women who are at the point where they have the kids at home and they're not working, and I think they feel nervous or maybe even scared to start, because it's so scary when you haven't done anything in such a long time. Like, let's say 5-6 years, and you know, what would you tell them to do, or how would you tell them to just start?
So I would say
come to Crunchmoms.
I mean it's a nice group for Crunchmoms. So come to any network, right? Where you can meet different people that are not like your typical circle. Yeah. Or hang out with your own friends over coffee if they'll inspire you for something.
That's a good one.
Just go out there and just keep thinking about what it is you want to do. Yeah. There's also all kinds of coaching programs that you can do. To figure out what you want to do. Okay. So we have one called Designing Your Life, which was started by 2 Stanford professors. There's so many coaches out there. Find the one that fits your personality. If you really are lost with what to do, it doesn't have to be a business. You can start with a hobby. So I had a friend, like a close personal friend. She's not linked to Crunchmoms. She went through something recently, like health-wise. she hadn't worked for a very long time. And then I think it just kind of gave her this, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And she said, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And one day she just decided to go to the library, go to the bookstore, pick up some books. And she's like, I'm going to pursue design, like graphic design. She had no experience in it. She then started doing courses and she just loves it. Her kids go to school. She just sketches and draws.
Incredible.
I don't know if she wants to make it into a business, but she is so happy doing it and she's building the skills. So it doesn't have to go from A to 100, 1 to 100, like 1 to 100, 1 to 100 and like, boom, let's launch this business. Pick up something that will make you happy and it could become a project.
It all flows, right? I think once you open that door, and you're happy.
Yeah.
And the energy is, the frequency of that is radiating from what you're doing, all the right things follow after that.
Absolutely. And every time I see her, I'm like, what are you working on?
Yeah.
She shows me, I'm like, I'm going to connect you to this person. If she wants to do some work with them, great. Or I'll say, hey, why don't you display it like on an Instagram page? I'll help you. And your conversations with friends or maybe other people will kind of evolve as well. Because when you speak to your friends and they're like, what have you been up to? It's just like, oh, I'm taking care of my kids. It's kind of nice that like some of them can say, I'm trying something new now.
Exactly.
So that's what I would recommend.
Wow. So society, just to kind of finish off this conversation, but societal expectations influence women's choices, I think, from what I've seen. And what would you say would be, I mean, do you think this is a positive, like, do you think it's a positive influence, or do you feel like it holds women back slightly?
I don't know. I think sometimes it's not as positive. Like, I think with society, someone might feel that they can't take a break from their career, or I have to be doing this job, or I have to be doing this. And there's a lot of pressure. So I think it's most important that the individual looks within, tries not to really care or give a shit about anything else. And just think, what makes me happy? What is it that I want to pursue? Because it's my life, not anyone else's life. And I think if one were to feel judged by others based on like, oh, you should be working, or you should be, I don't know what the scenarios are, but I think someone has to look really within and just think, do I have, a happy home? Have I taken care of my family? If I've taken a break, it's for me, and just go back. I think people know what their own destiny is and what their own journey is. And I think society can sometimes get in the way of it. But I think that women just have to look from within and kind of put everything else aside. If that's it's probably easier said than done. I don't have a specific scenario.
That's the hard part. It's actually like kind of going within.
Yeah.
And
do you feel like ever like influenced by society in a positive or negative way?
I'm quite sort of, how do I explain this? I think I put pressure on myself. So I have never cared much about what people think of me or sort of what I do, and I think that's a good thing. That's something I like about myself.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
But I am tough on myself as a person. So I think like maybe I should just calm down. Like, I'm my worst critic.
That's good. Maybe you're like pushing yourself to achieve more, which I think is a good thing.
I think it's a very good thing. But being critical of yourself or talking negatively.
Or comparing yourself in your mind or anything.
100%. So I'm getting better at it. Let's just put it that way. I think I've accepted the fact that I'm a mother of 3, which I used to fight. Now I've accepted, no, you're a mom of 3. If my priority is going to be my kids, no matter what, for the next, 18 years.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean I'm not ambitious or looking to continue my trajectory with work, but I have to find things that work for me. And my family and my kids so I'm just being a little. You're just
navigating. Exactly. We have to be kinder to ourselves.
100%.
I've learned that from all the women that have spoken at Crunchmoms, because I think we are hard on ourselves and we just have to kind of fill our cups so that we can give back to our families. And I think one of the members in our community, she I think was part of our coaching program, and she was trying to design her life, and she was like, I'm just a mom. And then by the end she was like, no, I'm happy, I'm a mom, I'm focused on my kids, and my time will come when I decide to pursue something.
I think that exactly what you just said. I've accepted that I am am actually working, and I do have my passion projects.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and thank you. And I've got lots of things going on, but I realized sort of it might take me a couple more years to really, I don't know, let's say explode into whatever it is that's coming for me work-wise, because it's not the time.
Yeah.
What I'm doing right now works, and sorry, I'm like, you're interviewing
No, but
me
it's
right
true.
now.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Like, it's really inspiring, because I think that it's the consistency.
Yeah.
Like, you've done this. First of all, a lot of people have the idea in their head and they don't pursue it, but you've done it and you've been consistent at it. And I think one of the ladies in our network, she's just like, there's a stigma around if it's not climbing that corporate ladder to this traditional corporate job that's full-time. Like, there's something around society that's like, this is something like this, having a podcast that can grow into something huge, having
And
these different initiatives.
Patient. It's like also being patient. And
it's a true test to one.
That's a test for me, because I'm not a very patient person. And if things just don't, aren't incredible instantly, I'd be like, oh, this isn't working. And that's not true.
Yeah.
You have to nurture things a little bit more, and so it's all an amazing lesson.
Yeah, I mean, it goes deep. It goes super deep.
It sort of reflects so much more. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about work, but it really is about you as a human, and it reflects just so much, I feel.
Because I think oftentimes people might see this, right, as the podcast, like, wow, she has this podcast, but then like behind the scenes, you're like coordinating to do the podcast, you're like juggling like the school messages, picking up the kids, getting the food sorted.
Didn't sleep well last night.
Yeah, you probably didn't sleep well because your kid woke you up like 50 times. Like, there's so much like under the surface that people don't see. So then when you're doing something on top of it, there's a reason why it's going to take time, because like there's like 1,000 other priorities that need to happen.
100%.
And it's just making those steps and staying consistent.
Staying consistent with a nice sprinkle of patience.
Yeah. And sleeping whenever you, like the days you sleep, then it's like, let's power through this. And the days you don't, it's like, all right, I'm just going to do one thing today.
What I found really annoying is when I actually do sleep well and then I wake up feeling really tired. I'm like, that's not fair.
Yeah,
I just
that's
had
the
those
worst.
8
It's like
hours.
9 hours and I'm like
this.
on my 10th coffee. It's like, what's going on over here? Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. So your support system. We discussed sort of your husband and sort of how his family is here.
Yeah.
But how important is your support system, aka maybe your husband or family around you, in the process of becoming this, successful entrepreneur?
Yeah, the support system is so important for me personally, and it's taken time to get it to where it is now. I have 5 kids. I clearly am tired. I have a 5-year-old. I definitely don't have 5 kids. You're like, that's a surprise.
You told me too earlier. Yeah, so
I have a 5-year-old
okay.
and I have a 2-year-old.
So I have the same ages, so I completely get where you're at.
Yeah, and I think there is no, things are a little bit more chaotic when you are an entrepreneur. It's not this clear, go in to the office, 9 to 5, come out. It's like you're working at different kinds of peaks. So this support system is really, it's gotten to a place that it required work. So my husband, he's Pakistani, so our family is Vietnamese, Pakistani, American mix.
I told you earlier, I just don't know this mix. It's incredible.
I know.
Never seen this mix before.
Listeners can go on my Instagram and see what the outcomes look like. Exactly. But he's very supportive, and it's also taken work, right?
Yeah.
In a marriage, and then a marriage when you have kids, it is all so much work.
The marriage alone is a lot of work, and then you're adding 2 little beings to the mix. When
you're learning all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So that is just constant reminders of, hey, we're a team. We're not against each other. We got to do this together, and it's it's in a good place. And then it's the support that you can have here in Dubai. We have an amazing helper nanny who loves to cook.
Little angels.
Yes, she is just another mother to my children. She loves them, and so she plays with them. She helps with everything in the house, and we've put on a really strict system in our family that just works. Yeah. My husband works every day in Abu Dhabi, so a lot of the load comes on me in the house. And so I've had to manage that, and I've just had to learn how to automate my life, using Siri to be like, hey, these are the things we need for the groceries today. Hey, everyone, please put in what you need for groceries by this day. having things set on my Amazon that is
it's a system.
It's a system that
like a business,
took
actually.
a year to like get down. It's like everyone knows that from this time to this time, I'm going to work as much as I can and then pick up the kids. We don't have a driver. I'm doing all the pickups and drop-offs, but it's just learning how to be efficient at every point. But we also have my husband's family here. So having like my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, loads of cousins, arranging that they play together. I mean, it really does take like a huge community and village to support. Yeah. And then I never knew I needed it, but that Crunchmoms community vibe that I didn't have when I had my first son, but my second son, like the moment I had my second one, the women were just like, what do you need? Can I give you this? Can I support? So and that's like everything right there. So support system, I'm trying to think what else is there. I feel like it's a system within your house too, like making it a happy place, making sure the only things that we had there was like happy. Like anytime I see clutter, I get rid of it. It sounds like the most simple things, but like I'm just constantly
you're aware
tweaking my home and my system to just make it work, and then it becomes clockwork.
Yeah.
So this is something that I think it takes time for people to get to, and then it's going to change completely next year, right?
Definitely.
I made the decision to put both my kids in like a Montessori school, even though their age gaps are like different, 5 and 2, but their classrooms are right next to each other.
Yeah, and in the Montessori system anyways, don't they have kids who are much older in the classroom?
Yeah,
because my boys actually went to Montessori.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And so next year is going to be different, and so I have to figure out a new system. And I don't know what it's like having like older kids, but that's why I can rely on like the community or others to be like, hey, what's the system that works for you? And we once had, one of the members say, hey, I'm just like doing too much right now. What's everyone's system? And everyone in the group just started writing, and I just read through and I was like, wow, what women manage.
I want that.
Yeah, I should send it to you. They were all recommending like these digital calendars that you can reflect it on your app that shows up on like this whiteboard.
Oh, no, that's scary. I don't like that.
Yeah.
That scares me. But yes,
but some have the traditional whiteboard that they would handwrite.
Have a whiteboard with a pen.
And then they were all making these recommendations and hacks, and I was like, this is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
You could sell those for lots of money.
It's a good idea.
Oh, okay, amazing. So how can you define success for yourself? Are you there?
Yeah, I was actually thinking in the car ride here, I was like, I think I drove by like one of my old offices when I first moved to Dubai. In Media City. Yeah. It was not too far. And then I was like, man, I wonder what it'd be like if I was still like going into that office every single day. I mean, I loved it at the time. Yeah. And then I was thinking, I think I'm pretty happy. Like I get to pick up my kids, which I used to think, oh, that's another task. But then I was like, you know what? I love doing it. Yeah. I'm happy to see them. So I think one of the questions that was asked to me in my career was, how do you define success? Yeah. And I remember used to think, this was back in like my 20s, what a brilliant question. Because I think like back in the day, success was like, I'm going to make it to that next title and get this salary. Yeah. But now it's like much fuller than that. It's not just like money. It's like, am I healthy? Am I happy? The things that I value in life. How I would define success right now, like I feel like everything I've put into Crunchmoms, like if I think back of the first coffee meeting and like I swear the first like 30 minutes no one showed up, I was like, what am I doing?
And you could have stopped.
And I could have stopped. And there were a lot of things like obstacles that come in the way that make it like, what am I doing? Should I be doing this? I'm trying to help, but like I'm putting myself down. So now when I look back on like where we are right now, I'm like, we have our 3rd summit happening like in 2 weeks. We have like thousands of women on our platform. We had our Instagram like triple within like a week. I mean, these are not success metrics, but it shows that there's movement. Yes, there's something happening.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's one of those things like doing all of this is not easy. It takes like you keep pushing. So when I look back of where we started to where we are now, I'm like, I definitely define this as success I'm very proud of, like amongst like our team. I think in terms of defining success, I would say just putting more intentional, healthy habits into my life. And
like
I think
what?
I would say I can easily just be at a laptop for like 12, 14 hours straight and not get up. I mean, I still have to do the pickup, so that's like my steps for the day. But I think remembering that like what you do now in your I'm in my 30s, what you do in your 30s will catch up to you with health-wise in your 40s or 50s. So for me, it's like, I need to build this up. So just not prioritizing all of my meetings for work, but also saying, hey, I have these, you know, wellness workouts or something that will give me energy that I know is important for my health.
Also identifying how you could have more of a balance, whether that means hiring someone to help you or
that's good advice. We should probably do that because we're a small team. So
you can not pull back, but have more time for the health part that you're talking about for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think bringing on more into a team, because it's just me and my partner full time. Tried interns. Okay. Yeah, it's not the same, but I've realized that like bringing on people that really enjoy working and believe in the mission and just are hardworking with good values, it is important. So I think that's maybe a good thing, is if I want to, what I envision Crunchmoms or my life in the next 5-10 years, I have to look at it. Because when I think back, I was actually doing this last night, I was thinking back like, okay, the last few years, I was like, my son's already 5 years old. Yeah. And I was like, and I've just been working all the time. And I was like, I need to carve out more time for like health-wise for me, like eating a little better, not probably having like 10 coffees to like fuel myself, movement. Yeah. But then part of me, I'm like, one of my friends said this morning in a message, she's like, oh, I miss those younger years. And I was thinking in my head, it's cute. The younger years are so cute. I was like, it's also so chaotic. And I was just like, you know what? I need to carve out the moments and experiences with my own kids. So I think I've kind of done the career and like kids is like here, like I've always taken care of them, but I'm probably not as, I need to spend more like quality time with them.
A bit more quality time. Yes, I understand.
So again, it's that question of, can we have it all? Fine. Maybe I haven't had it now.
Yeah, there's always going to be something that's dipped, right?
Exactly.
But your kids at this age, they're not this age for very long, right? And then I feel like work will always be there.
Correct.
Not that you need to change anything, but I think this way all the time. Like, so I think that's why in my head now I'm like, no, focus on the kids, because not only, but just give a bit, because they're going to grow up, and then I never want to think in my head, why didn't I take them to that activity, or why didn't I, just
I think it's don't wait. It's like, don't wait, right? Like if you wanted to take your kid for like this experience to go see something, like I think there was something like at Green Planet that you could spend the night and see like the animals. Wow. And we kept talking about it. I'm like, I think when it comes to like our kids, I'm like, let's just book it, don't overthink it, and do these things with 100%. Them. And I think one of the things that we did, which when my kids were like 2 years ago, so they were like 3 and 1, it was like a trip to Japan, and there were so many reasons where my husband was like, let's not do it. And then we did it, and we're like, this is something we look back on.
Wow.
So I think that definition of success is just making sure these moments with our kids, we just keep pushing at it, even if we're tired on the weekends or something. And then the career side of things, I'm very happy with where things are at right now, and how I see it in 5 years' time, I don't know, but I can definitely say if we were to stop or something were to change, like I'm very happy with the definition of success when it comes to career. And there will be moments that I want to improve and work on the elements of health and kids and family.
Incredible.
Such a long answer, but it's such a tough one.
It's a really hard question.
Yeah,
it's not an easy question. And I like that you tapped into sort of more personal and career, because success is obviously not just career, like it's very much like a feeling. I think it's an internal feeling, and your internal feeling comes a lot from your home. And I think it's all personal. Like I think if someone just defines I think back in the day, people used to always have their work face on, and then like they're like outside of work, and I'm just like, no, like and I blend. They would look so different. Yeah. They would look so like, this is who I am at work, and this is who I am, and I'm like, no, like I'm the same person. Exactly. So for me, the answers are always me, not the personal and professional, because I'm one person. Exactly. And also it's kind of weird to have like a work personality and like it's a split personality. Yeah, but I think that was a more traditional thing, like back 100%. In the day, like you are like this at work and how you live your life after. You would notice that from dads who sort of worked in banks, and then you'd see them on the weekend and they'd look like a different species. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like my dad anyway. But okay, so I think it's a good time to go to your pivot. And you've obviously mentioned quite a few little ones here and there, but I'd like to hear about a pivot that you feel has sort of been pivotal in your life. And again, this doesn't have to be work related.
Yeah.
It can even be sort of a mental shift, an emotional shift, something that has changed you, you know, something that's changed you and gotten you to this point today in this sort of, you know, leader position and like successful entrepreneur.
That's so nice to hear you say that. You know, I didn't plan, rehearse, or anything. You know, I didn't know what questions would come up. And for me, I'm reflecting on it in the moment right now. Like, what is the first thing that comes into my head around pivot?
Yeah.
And I would have to say, coming to the Middle East was definitely the biggest pivot, and I've seen a number of factors that have changed me. Mm-hmm. I'm not like from the region. Go ahead.
Yeah, where are you from?
Yes, so I was born and raised in Austin, Texas, in the US. My parents are both Vietnamese. They came from Vietnam to the US in like their 20s, 30s. And my brother and I were born in the US. So my upbringing was in a very Vietnamese traditional household. I learned Vietnamese first before I learned English. And then I went to, you know, a school in America where I was kind of like an outsider, I guess, in the early years. Yeah. And I kind of adapted, and my family kind of adapted to like the American ways. And what I knew was only what I knew in my hometown of Austin. And Austin's a pretty cool place. It's like hip. It's
my
like,
husband loves Austin.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like you got the hippies, you got the techies, you have the college student, you have the food scene, you have the music scene. And that was my life, like, that I knew about in college. But if you look at my upbringing, like, what you know is what you live in your small neighborhood community. Mm-hmm. So your news, everything you learn there. So I took a chance when I graduated from school and just came all the way out to Dubai. Like, I've never lived outside of the US or Austin. And so I think that move, like, when I look back of who I was, I didn't know anything about the international world, like, at all.
You're in a bubble.
Yeah, you're completely in a bubble. Yeah. So I feel like this pivot, I've been here now since 2009. So it's probably where I've spent like my entire adult life. And I feel like I got married, you know, into a family, like Pakistani family. I have friends that are from everywhere in the world. I went from starting my career here to like becoming an entrepreneur of a business. And then now I have a family. And I feel like that pivot, I feel like this region has given a lot of opportunity to people. Like when you see what Dubai is now to what it was like 10 years ago. And this, I don't know how to explain it. This pivot has been pretty crucial in my life. Like when I look back of like where my family are still now and where I am here, like none of my family are here. I've just kind of hustled into making friends at work, figuring out what I wanted to do with my career, because I didn't know anyone here. Yeah. I just kind of took a chance, and here I am with like a kid.
I think you took a chance at a very crucial, as you said, point of your life, which is sort of when you start your career. Yeah. And then I guess you found 21. Your husband here? Yes, I met him here a few months after I moved here. We dated, and I remember when I was 21, my friends were like, I can't believe you're moving, you're so young. And I remember thinking like I was like looking at my 20s. I was like, if I don't do it in my 20s, I got to do it now. And the worst case is I come back. And then I think we often have to look like projection of like the next decade. Otherwise, we'll just be doing the same things. So I think that was a huge pivot. I'm not sure if I'm going deep enough with the share, but it was like, it was life-changing for me. Your life, exactly. So
but it didn't happen overnight.
No.
It was like in the last decade, like it's really changed a lot for me.
Wow. And so Dubai or the region has given you I don't even want to say like a hugely different life that you didn't know existed kind of thing. Yeah. And I don't know, there's a lot going on in the region today, which is very sad, you know, like it's, you know, so heavily affected. Yeah. But we have to just, I don't know, stay very positive and just pray that everything, justice is really prevails at this point.
I mean, that's a good example, right? Like I feel like when I was in Austin, I wouldn't have kept up with what's happening in this part of the world.
Even know.
it's unfortunate, like in the US, but I feel like the news that you get is like literally the local news of what's happened in the neighborhood. Whereas now when I look, like I've made trips, I've opened my eyes, I've spoken to people.
And you post on your Instagram about sort of Palestine.
Yeah,
and,
of
even
course,
Lebanon.
of
so
course.
like I for someone who is not Arab, and you know, I really respect that, and I, you know, the support means the world to people who are suffering, you know.
Absolutely. I think it was one of those things that when I came to this region, you know, you often hear it, and I was trying to educate myself and understand. So I decided to just make a trip, and that was quite a eye-opening experience as well. And so for me, it's like what you don't know, you have to learn, right? And so
where did you make a trip to? Was it here, you mean?
Yeah,
here,
from here to Palestine.
Oh, you went?
Yeah,
Incredible.
I made a trip.
And how was that?
It was eye-opening. I'll kind of leave it at that, because you hear things, you read things, and when you put yourself in the place, I think that's where, again, is the best way to really understand what's happening.
Yeah. Definitely.
And again, the Julie in Austin was definitely like just in a shell, in a bubble. Like I lived with my parents, like what I knew was just what we knew in like the Vietnamese community. So I would say, yeah, definitely pivotal. I feel like I'm more from this region than I am from like Vietnam or the US.
That's really lovely to hear.
Yeah.
That's really lovely to hear.
I might have tears soon.
Yeah. I think the fact that you also traveled there, went and saw things for your own eyes, probably makes it even harder to see now.
Yeah,
like
I'm definitely gonna have tears.
You know?
No, definitely. Definitely didn't. I wasn't. It's one of those beautiful things about your podcast and the title Pivot is you don't know what will come out.
Exactly. Well, I think this has been a really nice chat.
Yeah, I have no idea, like, if it's...
You know, an hour has passed.
Has it?
Yeah. I just looked at my phone.
I had no idea what I was going to say.
Do I have any other questions for you? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'd like to ask you a question. Yeah. Maybe it's a nice sort of closing as well. But what was the hardest part and challenges faced in getting to where you are today? And it doesn't have to be like sort of these obvious work challenges. It could be personal, it could be, but what was really the toughest part for you, or hurdles, you know?
Yeah, I think for some of the women in my community, they probably heard me say this, but I think the hardest thing has been a few things. So probably last year, like I think just sometimes things just happen, right? Like I had a kid, my house kind of like fell apart, like literally like floods and water, not related to the floods and the weather here. And then like there were just so many things that just one not so great thing after another. My son broke his leg. And I think that was probably one of the hardest moments, was like how to manage all of that when it was all like one thing would happen after another. And this is life, right? Yeah. Things are gonna happen.
Like, you know, when it rains, it pours.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And then on the positive front, when like good things happen, it rains, it pours. But when it's not so good things, you just have to learn how to deal with it. And it was hard. You know, you take a huge toll as women, as moms. We have to fix and take care of everything when these moments happen. So I think that was kind of a learning for me, is if I don't take care of myself, like it was like 2 years of not taking care of myself and putting everyone first, it just catches up with you. Yeah. So I think that was one learning for me, is in order to be successful and to give in your family or in your business or in your friends, you have to do something for yourself, even if it's like once a week, once a month, that just kind of gives you your fix of what you need. That's really important. Otherwise, things get difficult. And the second, I would say within the Crunchmoms business, one of the difficult things, which I always thought it would be like something like scaling or like something from a business perspective, but I would say there are moments when sometimes it's like people, which emotions, feelings, hurting someone when you didn't mean to.
Clashes, yeah, exactly.
That clashes, or just like you didn't think of this person, but you thought of this person. And I think over time I was like, wow, these are moments that I didn't realize would be the ones where, you know, they were not intentional, you don't mean to hurt. And so that's definitely a learning. But like major obstacles, I think it's now that I'm like not in the place, I'm like, okay, they were just little things and hiccups that happen. But in the time, it feels like it's something that I'm trying to figure out and solve for. But I think it's just like remembering that when these tough moments happen or a situation happens, how your character is, how your value is, or how you deal with them, and learn from, okay, what would I do next time? Or what is the learning from this that now in future I will do X, Y, Z. So it's very generic, but it's just keep remembering the learnings in these hard moments, I think, are really important.
I think that's literally key to everything in life. Like, this has happened, it wasn't easy, what did you learn?
Yeah.
Like, I always, and I'm trying to get my kids to be able to
we don't do it enough.
that way.
And everyone says it, but like to literally sit down and be like, okay, if this were to happen again, you become more resilient. It's like the first time it happens, you're just like,
well, you will, this is my opinion, but you will continue to receive the same sort of test in a different form until you pass the test.
That's so well said.
I
think.
It's
so true.
Like, you will keep getting it until you learned how to handle it gracefully and well.
And big and small. So even with small things, like things that, like, if you're not something were to happen and you didn't like deliver something on time, it's like, okay, I should have learned the first like few times, now I got to do it next time. So like every little thing when there's an obstacle or hurdle is always remembering what was the learning and how am I going to fix that for next time, so that we can evolve as people or in our business. So I would say that's a big one for me.
I want to close it on that, because to me that's just so important, and I think would like listeners to go away with that message at the end, you know.
I like that.
But this has been amazing. This flew.
I can't believe it's been an hour.
This flew, honestly. Like, I can't believe it. And you were just such a great guest. Like, I feel you really gave listeners, but me as well, just so much food for thought.
I hope so. I hope it, for me, whenever I go onto a podcast, I always want to like listen to all of the past episodes and just make sure that it's not repetitive, it's adding value. And I think for today, I just spoke from the heart, really.
That's
what came
always
to mind.
what I would like and what I prefer. And you really did. And I appreciate your tears also in that little moment.
I still have like a few here, but thank you. Maybe we can put some edits onto that.
I didn't even see it. You said it, but I didn't see it. But thank you for coming.
Thank you for having
will
me.
definitely be coming to your summit.
I can't wait to have you.
I'm so excited, honestly. I'm really excited. And it's over 2 days?
Yes.
It's over 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
October 30th and 31st.
Okay. I will be there, and thank you.
Thank
and please
you for
have a cinnamon
me.
bun.
I will. It looks so good.
I'm going to put the name on the Instagram thing. People
please share it with me. I'll check them out. I'm American, so I love cinnamon buns.
I'm English, but I love cinnamon buns also. Thank you. Welcome to Vivid. Thank you.